What happens when the most dangerous member of the Bloodline decides he's had enough? Because after weeks of growing tension, frustration, and unanswered questions, Jacob Fatu may have finally reached his breaking point. And if the latest reports are true, Roman Reigns could be facing the biggest betrayal of his entire Bloodline era. For months, Jacob Fatu has stood beside the tribal chief. He fought for him. He protected him. He followed orders. But after everything that happened recently, it suddenly feels like Jacob Fatu is questioning where he truly belongs. Welcome back to the Ringside Observer. I'm Kai. In this video, we're breaking down why Jacob Fatu is reportedly interested in joining Haku and the MFT, why his relationship with Roman Reigns appears more unstable than ever, what happened during the Bloodline's recent collapse, and why WWE could be setting up a massive shift in power within the Samoan dynasty. Grab some popcorn and get comfortable because we've got a lot of dots to connect before this one's done. Let's get into it. The biggest thing to understand is that Jacob Fatu has never been like everyone else. He's never been comfortable playing a supporting role. He's never been the type of superstar who wants to stand quietly in the background while someone else receives the spotlight. Jacob Fatu built his reputation on dominance, on intensity, on making sure everyone knew exactly how dangerous he was. And that's why recent events have become so interesting. Because for the first time since joining Roman Reigns, Jacob looks like a man who is starting to question everything. The moment that changed the conversation happened during that chaotic Bloodline segment. Roman Reigns stood in the ring and publicly honored Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso. The Usos were elevated. The Usos were praised. The Usos were presented as key leaders moving forward. Meanwhile, Jacob Fatu stood off to the side, watching, waiting, receiving nothing. Now, to be clear, Roman probably didn't intend to disrespect Jacob. But perception matters. And from Jacob's perspective, it may have looked like the same story all over again. The Usos get the recognition. The Usos get the praise. And Jacob remains the weapon everyone calls when they need violence. That's where frustration begins. And that's where WWE fans started noticing a change. Because when chaos broke out later that night, Jacob's reaction felt different. When Solo Sikoa shocked everyone, when Roman Reigns got blindsided, when the entire situation spiraled out of control, Jacob didn't rush in. He didn't save the day. He didn't defend the tribal chief. Instead, he watched. And that silence immediately got people talking. Because Jacob Fatu has never been known for standing still. Which brings us to the next development, the reported conversation involving Haku. Now, if you're talking about respect within wrestling's Samoan family tree, Haku's name carries enormous weight. He's one of the most respected figures in wrestling history. A legendary presence, a family elder, and someone whose influence stretches across multiple generations. That's why reports suggesting Jacob Fatu wants to align himself with Haku and the MFT have generated so much discussion. Because suddenly this story becomes much bigger than Roman Reigns. This becomes about identity. It becomes about loyalty. And it becomes about where Jacob truly feels he belongs. The MFT have quietly become one of the most intriguing groups in WWE. Their influence continues growing. Their confidence continues growing. And with Haku providing guidance, they suddenly look like a serious force. Now imagine Jacob Fatu joining that group. Think about what that would mean. You'd be adding one of the most physically intimidating superstars in WWE to an already dangerous faction. That immediately changes the balance of power. And perhaps more importantly, it creates a direct conflict with Roman Reigns. Because make no mistake, if Jacob joins Haku and the MFT, it won't just be a faction change. It will be a statement. A statement that he's no longer willing to live under Roman's shadow. A statement that he's ready to create his own path. And honestly, that might be exactly what WWE wants. Because a conflict between Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu has been sitting there, waiting to happen. The tension feels real. The frustration feels real. And the story almost writes itself. Roman sees himself as the leader of the family. Jacob sees himself as someone who deserves more respect. Eventually, those two viewpoints collide. And when they do, WWE could have one of its biggest stories of the year. Now let's be clear, nothing has been officially confirmed. Jacob Fatu has not publicly declared war on Roman Reigns. He has not officially joined the MFT, and WWE has not announced any major split. But that's what makes this situation so fascinating. The possibility exists. The seeds have been planted. And fans are paying attention. Because every week the signs become harder to ignore. Jacob feels different. His actions feel different. His attitude feels different. And WWE knows exactly how to tell a slow burn story. That's why so many people believe we're witnessing the early stages of something much bigger. Not because Jacob suddenly hates Roman, but because Jacob may finally be asking himself a question. Why am I fighting for someone else's vision when I could be building my own? That's the question that changes everything. And it's a question Roman Reigns may not be prepared to answer. What do you think? Is Jacob Fatu really ready to walk away from Roman Reigns? Would joining Haku and the MFT be the right move? And if Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns eventually collide, who walks out on top? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And before you go, I've got one final question for you. If you were Jacob Fatu, would you stay loyal to Roman Reigns? Or would you leave the bloodline and build your own legacy? Let me know. Until next time, this is the Ringside Observer.